Hey, I've been thinking we should live separately.
What?
Now that Anna has grown up, there's no need for us to live together every day, right? I was so shocked by my husband's words that I couldn't speak. I had married a man with a daughter from another marriage, and now that she was an adult, he was saying this.
So, you married me because you wanted me to be a mother?
Don't get all hysterical on me. We've been married for a long time now, living separately won't be much different, right? It was all so sudden, I couldn't organize my thoughts, and after that, my husband didn't even try to have a proper conversation with me before deciding to move out. Especially since he had quit his job 6 months ago and had been living on my salary. It was only because of the revenue from the company I run that we could live. Anna, Dad wants to live apart from me. What about you? Even though Anna wasn't very close to me, we had been together for over 10 years. If Anna cared for me, it would have been some consolation. That's what I was thinking when I asked her. Huh? Why would you think I'd live with you? I'm obviously going to go with Dad. I'd never live with some stranger, no way. Anna said this directly to me, with a smirk on her face. It's true. People with the same DNA really are alike.
It's fine if you want to live with Dad, but calling me a stranger, isn't that a bit much?
No, since we're not blood related, I don't want you acting like you're my mom. I've never thought of you as my mom, just a housekeeper. If you want to come as a housekeeper, I guess we could hire you. Maybe for about $3 an hour. The way she talked down to me made me realize maybe I need to accept reality. Expecting anything from these two was a mistake. Maybe it's best for me to move on and live a meaningful life on my own. That's what I convinced myself. After their request, I started looking into moving out to live on my own. Then, one day, when I got out of the bathroom, I could hear Anna and my husband talking in the living room.
Wait, Lisa is going to live with us too? This is super awkward for me.
You're going to move out once you graduate from college anyway, so it's not a problem to live together for that period. She's going to be my new wife, so try to understand. I remember my head going completely blank from the shock. My feet stopped in their tracks, and my heart rate shot up. Living with my husband's new wife. He had been cheating on me without my knowledge. At that moment, all I could think about was getting revenge on these two. My name is Michelle, and I currently run a luxury car rental business. I've been able to leave most of the management to others now, but getting here was a series of hardships. It goes back about 10 years. After graduating high school, I was desperately saving money while working in sales at a company. Ever since I was a child, my dream was to drive a convertible. And I was determined to make that dream come true. At my job, which was mostly low base pay plus commission. The more I worked, the higher my salary went. Congratulations! You're the top salesperson this month again. You're really doing great. Thank you. I have goals, and I want to save up.
Sales isn't something you can just will yourself to succeed in. You're really amazing. Keep it up.
My efforts were recognized by my bosses and colleagues, and I was really happy during that time. Eventually, even though it was a domestic model, I bought my dream convertible. I had to work even harder because of the loan payments, but it motivated me more, and I continued to achieve good results. Then, one day, as usual, I was checking the news online when I came across a job listing. It was for a dealer specializing in used imported cars. I've always loved cars, and the job opening was for sales at a dealership. Of course, compared to a car dealer, my knowledge of cars was pretty limited. However, I could leverage my sales skills, and more importantly, I couldn't pass up the chance to work at a dealership, a dream come true. I went for the interview immediately, and the interviewer decided to hire me on the spot after seeing my resume. Though it meant inconveniencing my current company, I explained my situation and decided to change jobs. Since then, every day has been fun, and I've really enjoyed my days. I learned about the ins and outs of running a dealership, and eventually, I decided to start my own business. I had a solid business plan, and though it was small, I started a luxury car rental business. There were many challenges at first, but working tirelessly every day, the number of customers grew, and before I knew it, I had 10, 15, 20 luxury cars in my fleet. The joy of growing my own company and the fun of owning so many supercars were incredibly fulfilling, and I dove deeper into my work. In the midst of all this, I turned 35. I started to think seriously about settling down. Then, one day, I met a man through a friend's introduction. He was divorced with a child, but that didn't bother me much. Whether he was divorced or had children, to me, it meant he had more life experience. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Thank you for making time to meet. His first impression was of a very smart and kind person. His height, weight, and face were average, but more than that, it was his smile and the atmosphere while we talked that seemed really kind. We sat down together. He seemed a bit nervous. Thanks to my job, I was used to talking to lots of people, so I wasn't that nervous dining with someone I was meeting for the first time, which worked in our favor, and we quickly hit it off. We exchanged contacts, and after meeting a few times, confirmed our mutual feelings and started dating. A year later, we reached the goal of marriage.
Let's make the best of it from here on out. I know there's Anna to consider, but I believe you're up for it.
Yep. I'll do my best. Our marriage wasn't typical. I was in my late 30s, and he was divorced with a child. It was a unique situation, but we were ready to support each other and build a happy home. That's what I believed even more. However, a month after we got married, I'm gonna be at my colleague's place for dinner and won't be back till morning, so please take care of Anna. Again? You didn't come home until morning last week too. Going out every weekend is a bit much. It's none of your business. I've been doing this even before we got married, so why should I have to stop for you? Well, just because you did it before we were married doesn't mean you can keep living the same way. We're a family now, you need to consider that too. Isn't it a bit selfish? Before we got married, he was really kind, but after, he started to only think of himself. He often went out drinking until morning, showing no consideration for me. Just married, and still not having established a good communication with his child, yet he goes out drinking till dawn. He could be a bit more considerate. The man I dated was sensitive to these matters. That's why this change in him made me sigh. Maybe he's the type who doesn't care once he's caught them. That's what I started to think. Anna, looks like your dad won't be back till morning. How about we go out to eat tonight? No, I'm not going. I'm hanging out with friends, so give me some money. Going out! Anna said this and silently stretched out her hand to me. Was she asking for money? I knew she hadn't opened up to me, but this felt a bit rude. That's what I thought. Of course, growing up without a mother around, some of this was to be expected. Her father was probably too busy with work to give her much attention or time. But I was soon to find out how naive that thought was. Even after 6 months to a year, there was absolutely no change in their behavior or their attitude towards me. If anything, it felt like it was getting worse. My husband's actions towards me had only increased in demandingness, and Anna, for her part, only ever asked me for money. They wouldn't even make the minimum effort to communicate, and despite my belief that we had become a family through marriage, there was no warmth or bond of family present. Before I knew it, Anna was a college student. She was becoming an adult, and I thought maybe soon she wouldn't be as much of a handful. Maybe once she started working, she wouldn't pester me for money anymore. Just as I started to entertain these thoughts, out of the blue, my husband said, "Hey, I've been thinking we should live separately." What? Now that Anna has grown up, there's no need for us to live together every day, right? I was stunned by his words, speechless. What did he mean there was no need to live together now that Anna had grown up? It was as if he was saying he married me just to raise his daughter. Certainly, it's better for a child to be raised by both parents rather than just one. But was that his reason for marrying me?
So, you married me because you wanted me to be a mother?
Don't get all hysterical. We've been married a long time now, living separately won't be much different, right? His sudden talk left me trying to piece together my thoughts, but after that, my husband made no effort to have a proper discussion with me and decided to move out. He had quit his job 6 months ago and had been living off my salary. He knew I was running a company, but never talked much about the business details. I had been covering living expenses since we had a decent amount of money. Looking back, perhaps my husband was just using me. Maybe he didn't marry me because he loved me, but because I was a convenient woman who would pay for things and act as a mother to his daughter. That realization hit me hard, and I regretted the time I had spent on them. Anna, Dad wants to live apart from me. What about you? Despite not being very close to me, Anna and I had been together for over 10 years. If Anna cared for me, it would have been some consolation. I asked my daughter with these thoughts in mind. Why would I live with you? I'm obviously going to stay with Dad. No way I'm living with a stranger. Anna said with a smirk, looking me straight in the eye. Indeed. People with the same DNA really are alike. Anna saw me merely as a convenience, too. All the time and money I had spent for her. I wanted to tell them that. Not that I wanted that time and money back. Offering unconditional love to family is natural. But I was the only one who thought of us as a family. They didn't care at all. My love was one-sided, and it pained my heart, leaving me feeling lonely about how to live on my own. People often say you should divorce such a person, yet some can't bring themselves to do it. From the outside, it might seem obvious to leave such a worthless person, but now I understand how they feel. No matter how awful someone is, living with them as a family for years can breed a deeper affection that's hard to surpass.
It's fine if you want to live with Dad, but calling me a stranger, isn't that a bit much?
No, since we're not blood related, I don't want you acting like you're my mom. I've never thought of you as my mom, just a housekeeper. If you're coming as a housekeeper, we might hire you. Maybe for about $3 an hour. This dismissive attitude was just insulting. Perhaps it's time for me to accept reality. Hoping for anything from these two is futile. Maybe it's best for me to move on and live a meaningful life on my own. I convinced myself of this. Following their wishes, I started to make plans to move out and live alone. Then, one day, as I came out of the bathroom, I overheard Anna and my husband talking in the living room.
What? Lisa is moving in too? That's super awkward for me.
You'll be moving out once you graduate from college anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem to live together for that period. She's going to be my new wife, so try to understand. I remember my head going completely blank from shock. My steps toward the living room halted, and my heartbeat accelerated. Living with his new wife. He had been cheating on me. And decided to marry her, starting to say he wanted to separate from me. Maybe after a while, he would ask for a divorce. Without revealing any truth, not cleaning up his mess, and without an apology. The moment I heard their conversation, my patience finally ran out. I had no love left for these two. All I could think about was getting back at them. When do you plan on leaving this house? And you, Anna? Since this house is leased under my name, I'd like to know the exact date you plan on moving out if you are. I haven't decided on the exact date yet, but probably within next month. Of course, I'll be moving out too. Oh, and about the housekeeper thing, if you really want to hire me, I might consider it. There she goes again, saying weird things. I couldn't help but sigh at my daughter smirking as she said that. Well, there's no point in worrying too much about it. I'm going to say goodbye to these two anyway. You really think I'm going to be your housekeeper? You're not serious, right? I don't know how an old lady like you is going to manage on her own, but can you live without relying on us? No, wait a minute. At that moment, my husband stuttered, perhaps nervous. He probably hadn't told her yet that he had quit his job. That's why Anna could afford to be so bold with me. But reality isn't so kind. I don't need to do that. I own a company that makes millions, so I certainly don't need a job paying $3 an hour as a housekeeper. I want to ask you, though, not working and can't do housework, worried about living with someone worth about 50 cents an hour? I'm getting a divorce, so it's none of my concern.
What?
Anna looked utterly baffled the moment I said that. Obviously. She probably didn't think I ran such a successful company. But the way Anna has treated me is a fact. No amount of regret changes that fact. I no longer had any affection left for Anna. Only a desire to make them regret their actions. I'm filing for divorce, so sign these divorce papers before you move out. Also, since you plan on living with your affair partner, you had a relationship with another woman while we were still married, so you'll need to take responsibility.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by divorce?
Don't play dumb. You know you've been cheating.
I haven't cheated. I just wanted some time to myself since our marriage has lasted so long. Suggesting that we live separately wasn't about ending our life together.
I heard you two planning a new life together, talking about remarriage. Was that not true? Seemed like you were quite loud about it, thinking I was in the bathroom. It's impressive you could discuss such things while I was around. At that moment, they both fell silent, looking at each other. They must be regretting their unnecessary actions, but it's too late for regrets now. Even if you deny it, I have evidence of your cheating. I have no attachment left for you two, and I certainly don't plan on living with you anymore.
But, wait. Are you serious about divorcing me? Hang on, Mom. You're misunderstanding. What we were talking was...
She called me Mom? I remember exactly what she told me when I brought up separating. She wouldn't let her forget. She clearly looked me in the eye and said we weren't family, calling me just some woman. At that moment, I felt utterly disappointed, and any familial bond was completely gone. Just when it's convenient, she resorts to calling me family. I'm not your mother, not family, nothing. Just a stranger, I thought to the core. Although anger was bubbling inside me, getting emotional and angry wouldn't lead anywhere. I decided to take a deep breath and calm my mind. Could you not flip-flop on calling us family only when it suits you? You sided with your father, knowing he cheated. If that's your decision, I respect it. So, could you not change your stance depending on the situation?
Wait, Mom. I truly respect you, and there's a big reason for this situation.
A big reason? If there's such a grand justification, I'd love to hear it. Where's the reason to affirm cheating and smirk about treating someone who's been in your life for over a decade as a stranger? Convince me. I pressed her seriously, and may be surprised by my insistence. She looked down and fell silent again. Words that came out reflexively, showing no conviction. That's why she goes silent with just a bit of pressure. Talking to them was just a waste of time, and I wanted to end it quickly. Whatever you say now, my feelings won't change, so don't make me angrier than I already am.
Wait a minute. Are you really intending to divorce me? We're not a family. And with the money you're making, we could all live happily together.
As I've said before, can you stop pretending we're a family now? It really infuriates me. We are no longer a family. As you said, we're not related by blood, practically strangers. The past years were just a waste of time. I said this and left the house. I left in a huff, but I didn't have anywhere in particular to go. So, I decided to kill some time at a nearby cafe. I had gotten a bit heated and emotional, but everything I said came from the bottom of my heart. I no longer saw those two as family, and just sharing the same air with them made me nauseous. The things they did to me were atrocious, betrayal itself. I wanted them to truly understand that. After killing about 4 hours at the cafe, I had nowhere else to go, so I decided to return home. I picked up some dinner on the way back, and when I got home, my husband and daughter were waiting for me at the entrance. Maybe I will get an apology. But even if they marveled now, my feelings wouldn't change. That's what I thought, but...
You're really not going to reconsider the choice of divorcing us and cutting ties? Of course not. Why would I think of living with you any longer? If that's what you want, but remember, it's the same as you giving us half of your assets as part of the property settlement. Is that your aim? You might want to bring us down to rock bottom, but the world doesn't work with such unfair outcomes. You talk about making Dad take responsibility, but if we're divorcing, you'll have to take on some of that responsibility too, won't you?
No. What are they even saying? I was so furious and appalled I couldn't speak. Of course, dividing assets in a divorce is standard. I understand that much. But to hear them say it so blatantly. They're not remorseful at all. Their desperate pleas not to divorce, to work together as a family, were lies. They've proven that themselves. But no matter what they say, my decision won't change. I intended to divorce my husband and cut ties with them, regardless of the property division. And owning several cars and making a huge revenue doesn't mean all of it is subject to division.
Sure, there might be a property division, but I only take the minimum salary, so there's hardly anything to divide. I haven't been able to save much either. Well, I don't need savings since I have a salary from the company. And those cars? They're all registered under the company, not me personally. They have nothing to do with our divorce. They're not marital property. What? So, after the divorce, we get nothing? That's ridiculous. While you say that, you must be hiding other assets, right? If you're that suspicious, why don't you hire a lawyer or whatever and investigate thoroughly? That is, if you can afford it. Seeing no point in engaging further, I immediately returned to my room. An hour later, they came back to my room saying they had something to say, but I ignored them completely. They couldn't enter since I locked the door, but I could hear them apologizing outside my door, and I was just astonished. Realizing that my words were true and the dream of receiving a huge amount as part of the property settlement vanished, apologizing was the only way they saw to avoid the worst outcome. It was truly pathetic. But I had no intention of accepting their apologies, considering it a waste of time, so I used earplugs and went to sleep. Surprisingly, I fell asleep quickly and had a good night's sleep. Maybe their apologies served as a lullaby. The next day, I packed my things and headed to a hotel. Until the very end, they pleaded with me not to abandon them, but I didn't speak to them at all. Then, with the help of my attorney, I proceeded with the divorce. There was already evidence, and it seemed my husband had resigned himself to not being able to escape the situation. The divorce was finalized. Now officially strangers, I declared estrangement from my ex-husband and ex-daughter, ready to start anew. I heard later that the two of them went on to lead the worst kind of lives. He had nearly wiped out all the savings my ex-husband had, and the woman he was seeing dumped him. While we lived together, I had been the main provider, allowing him to spend his earnings on his affair. The other woman had misunderstood his financial status, thinking he was earning a lot, and had even decided to marry him. But once he was left penniless, she wanted nothing to do with him. Now alone, my ex-husband struggled with no money, no partner, and was plagued by loneliness and anxiety about the future, making repeated mistakes at work. It seems the fact he had an affair spread within his workplace, and unable to bear the stress, he eventually quit his job. As for my ex-daughter, she continued attending college for a while, but had to voluntarily withdraw due to lack of someone to pay her tuition. She did find a job eventually, but had to support her father with her meager salary, causing her a lot of stress, and now she too has cut ties with him. Had they stayed with me as a family, they could have been enjoying a good life by now. What a foolish choice they made. For me, cutting ties with such exploitative people feels like a relief.
Staying with them would have eventually led to unpleasant experiences at some point in life. I might have wasted years, but ultimately, it was a valuable life lesson. I don't know if I'll remarry or what my life will become. However, I plan to focus on my business and live every day without wasting any time. Regardless of power or wealth, love is essential in relationships. Without love or bonds, it can't be considered an important relationship. I want to spend my time with people who value me not for convenience, but cherish me as a person. That's the secret to enjoying life, and it's what I've learned from this experience.